Hey traders, welcome to a crypto market update. We will be touching on the S&P, but that's just to understand if we're potentially going to be in a risk on sentiment or environment in the near term or future. So let's first look at BTC on the 2-day chart. We understand that we broke a very significant zone, breaking the 10K zone. Not only was it a horizontal level of significance that we saw from around September of 2019, but it was also a key level of confluence for the descending zone with the high here that we saw in the winter of 2017 transitioning to 2018, and then the next high was in the summer of 2019, and then that massive move to the downside where we dropped 50% in a day was the February of 2020. We were able to climb back out of it and then create a lower high than what we saw in February. Some alts were already surpassed this previous high, and then we saw a very long consolidation, a very tight contraction in the volatility. This was our first impulsive push. We got our descending wedge, and this is now our second major impulsive push, which is going to be far more significant than this one, because this one was a small impulsive push which validated the breakout. We saw a lot of trading occur above this major zone of confluence. We saw a pullback, which is good because it now takes a market breath. We like to see that before the next impulsive push, and I think this is the current potential area where we're looking for continuation patterns. And when I see this, it instantly just gave me flashbacks to what we saw back in April in the spring of 2019. Major move to the upside after breaking the $4,200 range right around there. We saw an ascending trend line, which isn't absolutely perfect, but there was a nice descending zone that was right here, a little bit within the smaller time frames, and then also a horizontal zone at 4,200, which we broke. We were looking for continuation patterns, and we saw a kind of slow crawl up with a low series of higher highs and higher lows. Nothing really significant that was very impulsive and strong, but we did see that strong level of support hold, and I think that's what we're looking for within the current structure that we see right now. We will jump into the smaller time frames, but we just want to illustrate that this was right there. I'm sure you could see the similarities because that's exactly where I got it from. So when we go jump onto the 6-hour chart, I also did a TikTok about this. We are able to really see the similarities, and nothing's going to be absolutely perfect, but what I'm going to be looking for is the 12.7, 12.65-ish zone. I think 12.7 might be more accurate, is going to be the potential level of support that I'm going to be looking for, even if we do get a little bit of a move to the downside, because I am looking for continuation patterns, because at the end of the day, I'm bullish on BTC. So why would I look for shorts and basically be in front of a train, in my opinion, especially when we look at the SPX, looking at how the correlation between the Bitcoin SPX that we saw is really diminishing and slowly fading. Maybe not so much in the 180-day, 360-day, or 365-day, or whatever the longer term correlations that we may look at, but in like maybe 90 days, even a month, I think we are starting to see a very significant shift in the correlation between Bitcoin and the S&P, and it's going in the opposite direction, where now we're going into less positively correlated and potentially zero correlation, and then we get to negatively correlated, where gold and the SPX would, I guess, more or less be negatively correlated to some degree, because gold is a risk off asset theoretically, although right now it has performed in correlation with the SPX and a lot of other risk on assets, where things like the US dollar, Japanese yen are the real only risk off assets that we've seen in this market since really COVID, in my opinion. They absolutely shot up to the moon when everything else was going down, even gold, silver, and what you would, and potentially even I would classify as like safe haven status in some sense. So now that we're going to be looking at the SPX, we already talked about where this came from. We already saw the potential opportunity that we are looking for, because in my opinion, we are in a BTC bull market. We are looking for opportunities to long, and if we do get something like this, what a really good opportunity would be is this major high here we'd be looking for pullbacks, right? We'd be looking for nice pullbacks. You could look for potential squeezes in here, but this is the situation. Once you break it, you have some trading above the zone, not just a little wick, but actual trading on a large time frame. Even if you put this at the 12-hour daily, you would see trading above this previous high, retesting it as a validated zone multiple times to really assure us that, yes, this is where demanded, this is where buyers are going to come in and purchase this asset. So that's what we're going to be looking for, and if something else occurs, then so be it, but we could be looking for a potential slight move to the downside. You know, if you haven't already entered from these levels, or dollar cost averaging, or have some level of exposure in BTC. I'm not a financial advisor, but I personally would. I do have. Yeah, can't really. I'm not a financial advisor, but I don't think it's a terrible decision. I think it's a really hedge against the U.S. dollar, which is going to inevitably fail. No fiat currencies has ever succeeded ever. So that's a fun fact. Anyways, we're going to go on to the SPX here. Looking at the potential squeeze that we could see here, or just a potential double bottom. We don't exactly know, but we have a very strong move to the downside where it was initially a potential reverse head and shoulders into a descending wedge. Somewhat of a similar situation that we saw with Bitcoin, but this really took a turn to the downside after we broke this significant zone at around 3,400. Once we broke that zone, the sellers really took over, validated the previous support as a new level of resistance, and then slammed the price down all the way to that previous low of around 3,200. And this is going to be that potential level for a double bottom. We don't exactly know. I'd ideally like to see some consolidation, and we do have a potential descending zone that we could work with a little bit later on, but that would really give us a level of confluence. So in a perfect world, what we would see is, let's just get our brush, is some level of consolidation and then a nice descending validated zone for this resistance level of confluence right around here. And then once we see that move to the upside, validating that previous resistance for a new level of support, also with that descending zone, we could be looking for price action confirmation, some level of squeeze on a smaller time frame. Whatever you're looking for an entry, that would be the potential outcome for the S&P. And even if you're just looking at Bitcoin, understanding where the S&P is, in my opinion, is a really good thing because it really keeps you on top of the overall markets. It's a really good indicator for the global sentiment, in my opinion. It's not just U.S. citizens who invest in the S&P. It's global, it's international, it's from places all around the world, so it's a really good thing to keep an eye on, in my opinion. So that's going to be the S&P. If we do see a hold and then that first situation occur, in my opinion, I think that's going to be extremely bullish for BTC, just because that's going to create more of a risk-on environment where speculators can look at BTC as well as other alts to receive more of a potential ROI or some lucrative trade compared to some less lucrative trade in some equities markets, in my opinion. So let's now go on to BTC, really to finalize it, because if we move to the downside, that's going to be a big question. I think there's going to be a lot of volatility coming in with the overall elections here. I don't really want to discuss that too much. I was just thinking about how much I should say. It's a pretty heated debate. I know some people take it very seriously, so I wish whoever you're choosing for the best of luck, I guess I could say. So that's basically going to be the end of the video. Just wanted to discuss the main price action with BTC, how it looks very similar, in my opinion, to what we saw back in April of 2019. We are going to be looking for that potential drop in the hold of support, where it's going to shake out that first little bit of sellers, first little bit of weak hands, I could say. And at the end of the day, you got to understand the overall kind of broader market, not just the small time frames. We're not looking at the 15-minute chart and looking at it because that looks a little bit boring. We do see some higher lows, which is great, but this level of resistance is holding. We could say, theoretically, we're seeing a nice little squeeze here because there's a series of higher lows coming in, and now we're seeing a series of lower highs. So if we are looking at it It's not really perfect, but if we go back maybe right here, that could be an opportunity where that's going to be a potential squeeze that we could see that would move to the upside if we aren't going to get a sell-off here. So yeah, a lot of opportunities for BTC to the upside, but I'm going to be a little bit cautious and still be bullish if we do get that pretty big dump. So, you know, if we start trading and then we go boom and then we get a massive dump to the downside, obviously we're going to get some pullbacks here and there, but overall this very strong impulsive push to the downside, we are going to be looking at this level of support at around 12.7 to hold. Looking at the price action here, we see that it was a small double bottom, and once we see that nice break, we could be looking for some opportunities. And this actually looks like a miniature version of the larger time frame that we're looking at, which is a fractal. The entire market's a fractal pattern to some degree. You just see the same patterns in different time frames over and over and over and over again. So that's the end of the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. It was a little bit quicker, but at the end of the day, we are really looking at BTC and Ethereum, and really the rest of the crypto market isn't necessarily going to exactly follow, but BTC is going to, in my opinion, open up the gates of, I guess, money flow in some sense, because if BTC is not really going to be bullish and it's not going to be a bull market, BTC takes majority dominance by far. So at the end of the day, we have to look at the king of the crypto market right now. It could change years down the line, but you know, we saw back in 2017 the dominance absolutely capitulated. Basically, the altcoins took so much of the dominance, which means that in the next bull market, which I think we are entering, I think that it'll happen again. So we'll be looking for alts. We'll be looking for those prime opportunities where you can get those, you know, 10 to 1, 15 to 1, whatever. If you just let it go and hold and slowly move the stop loss higher, but give it space, give it room. It's volatile, but you know, if you're able to have those risk rewards, that's going to be a phenomenal return. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully you got something from it. If you found this video informative, educational, entertaining, if you liked the video, and subscribe so it lets us know that we should make more videos like this. So thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you had a great weekend, and you have a good rest of the week. I will make a video on probably Wednesday, sometime this week, just because we're watching longer term price action in terms of 2 hours, 4 hours. Not really going to get into the smaller terms. So we will look at gold and silver, I believe, in on Wednesday there, just because it does look bullish. We haven't really seen a breakout yet, but I think if we do see a hold of the S&P at that strong level of support, we could see gold and silver really start to take the lead, and then that could actually create more incentive for investors to look at Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is somewhat stored in the same basket as gold in terms of a anti-fiat. There's a fixed supply, and not really relation to obviously the exact same thing, but there is that similarity. So hopefully you enjoy the video. Until next time, have a good one, traders.